Welcome to your new moon reading. I have been feeling like dog shit for days now, and it's been unpleasant because it's a kind of heavy breathing that makes you genuinely concerned for the person. Like, girl, just wait. We don't need to hear you sounding like you're taking your last breath. But wheezing aside, we are back. Little bit of walking pneumonia later. And let's talk about this new moon, and let's talk about November and how very important it is. So, a couple of things to keep in mind. Let's start with why I chose Joaquin Phoenix's Joker as your character, even though everyone thinks it's The Weeknd. Okay, that's fine too. Okay. The reason I chose that particular Joker, one, Joaquin is a Scorpio. And two, I think there's something about the first Joker that's the thing that makes it so painful, and I suppose parts of it so beautiful, is very much Scorpio coded. You know, it's the pain of having such deep feelings and not being able to find a way to express them. But then when you do express them, it's just too extreme. You've done too much. And there's often a sense with Scorpio, Scorpio rising, and Scorpio moon of having gone too far when finally getting to express yourself. So often you'll find that this makes for a person that's very well represented in the Joker, which is someone who can at first almost seem like a doormat, but not because they're appearing weak, but because they seem so accepting and so tolerant. Not words usually associated with Scorpios. And it's not because you're not accepting and tolerant. You can actually tolerate a bit too much, which therefore causes that disproportionate reaction when you've had enough. Right? And the arc of that film, the story, the way it unfolds, gives it's so Scorpio coded, and taking the abuse and being subjugated by your own qualities. It's not even the world is subjugating you. The world is a sort of dispassionate observer in this comedy that is your own, that at times is just a total tragedy because of who you are. You know, that's like one of the main themes of the film. And I think that there's a lot within Scorpios that resonates with that. There is a sort of sadness and confusion that can live in you because you don't quite understand why you are the way you are. You know it's wonderful, you know it's powerful, you know it's magnetic. But it's also so confusing because it's like you house this this very palpable power, and it's yours, and you use it and you wield it, but I don't think you completely understand it. And that, when it's expressed to other people, is where we get this, you know, Scorpios are so mysterious. What I'm trying to say is I think the thing that makes you mysterious is something that you yourself don't really understand. And where that disconnect is somewhere between having these feelings and then that gap in the middle where you allow those feelings to be negated in favor of other people getting their way, getting, you know, bending you perhaps to their will a bit. And once you've gone ahead and taken part in that initial betrayal of self, you know, the tendency from there is to project outward. Now the fact that you have betrayed yourself can easily be put on somebody else out there because they're continuing the violation, right? They did something, you didn't like it. Instead of nipping it in the bud or getting yourself out of the situation, you were tolerant And that tolerance has now made you feel like you've betrayed yourself, which you can't really handle, which brings up anger. And the person who's initially responsible for what's happening, who's caused the disruption in the first place, is just, unbeknownst to them, they have no idea what's going on in your mind. They're just continuing to do whatever they're doing. And their actions then feel like you're being poked. But they have no idea that they're doing anything. Because all this has happened within you. The disconnect between you betraying yourself by not initially reacting the way you know, being true to yourself. The disconnect between that and blaming someone else, and to the extent that you can be quite, let's say, violent emotionally with them. The disconnect there is where so much of that mystery lies for you, where it's hard to get a hold of a power, in this case rage. It's hard to really wield it properly when it happens in the dark, when it's purely reactive and something that you can't actually tap into unless you're pushed to a certain place. Again, really you're being pushed by yourself into that space. It's a whole other conversation. But what if you could wield that rage and it wasn't this involuntary reaction? What if it could actually be used as a tool, not just to intimidate people? Because there are some of you who are like, I learned how to do that already. People are scared of me. That's not what I mean. Although, yeah, that too, amazing. But I mean, productivity-wise, creativity-wise, in love relationships. Because, I mean, we have to be honest here. We're talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. We have to kind of redo everything now, don't we? With every sign. Because this will affect you in such a major way for so long. It changes the flavor of your entire life. It changes the lens or the filter, the color through which you see everything for a long time now, right? You have been, let's be totally honest, you have been, to a certain extent, a bit of a doormat in your relationships. And I'm not saying that you don't have those reactive moments that we just, went through step by step, play by play. I'm talking about all the moments where you don't react at all because you are aware that the response will be so disproportionate that you just don't even want to get into it. And yet, how many of those paper cuts do you absolve others for every day? And how many paper cuts do you think that you're capable of enduring before you just bleed out? Or do you not believe that one can bleed out from the small slights? Because you definitely can. Okay, so that's why I chose the character. He's not as crazy as everybody thinks he is. He's quite mad. Of course, he's sociopathic and psychopathic. But he's not deranged the way people want him to be deranged, because it would make what he's doing more palatable, somewhat more tolerable. It's beyond reprehensible to think that someone could do those things in a sane state of mind. Right? So when people think about you and they think about being in, an adversarial relationship with you of any sort of conflict, I think the thing that dawns on people slowly. It's like a cold realization, like a cold hand up your back, like the hand of death. I think what people realize very slowly is that you're not as crazy as they thought you were. They were underestimating you by thinking you were crazy. That you may actually be much more dangerous than that because you're not crazy. Okay? So that's why we chose, that's how we got here. That's how I got here. The royal we, that's how we got here. Now let's talk about the specifics of the astrology for November. So your reading is actually called Out of Bounds. And the reason it's called Out of Bounds is because with Pluto moving into Aquarius now, your situation changes in every way. And it's going to start with unconventional ideas. So if you've already been over the past, I don't know, like since May of last year, if you've been toying with some new ideas, maybe you've been looking into a different belief system, perhaps you've been seeing someone who's from a different culture or a different religion and you're starting to get interested, perhaps you took up a new language and that changed your perspective and you've been wanting to travel to places where that language is spoken. So there's something unconventional that has either already gotten your attention or over the course of November grabs you and it stimulates change. Now, there's one caveat here and it's in the astrology, but I don't know how many astrologers have picked up on it. And I just want to be that person who's like, hey, so if you're sober and if you've gotten sober, just be careful with November because the energy is, I want my life to change drastically. And when you have such a deep desire for change and situational, like just in terms of what you're placed in, the situations you encounter are tailor-made for unconventional change, and just, situations keep occurring that really speak to that deep desire in you to change, it can cause a reaction that makes you feel like, fuck it, everything is okay, I can do whatever I want. And yes, you can do whatever you want. And that's a big part of this. Out of bounds also means freedom, right? It's amazing. You can do whatever you want. But just if you've gotten clean, and obviously if you've done the hard work of getting sober, obviously it's important to you. Just keep in mind that November creates temptations within yourself. It's not others. No one's trying to drag you into anything. You just have such an exuberance and a joy around feeling free. Even if you don't really understand what's happening yet, you do understand. Even when you don't know what's going on, you feel exactly what's going on. Even if you can't name it, you feel it and you know it. So you know already that the bars are off. The doors have been not only flung open, they've flown off the hinges. There are no more doors. There's no more archways. There's no more fucking house. Everything is different. The Pluto actually moving into Aquarius on the 19th, of course, monumental. But you, being you, you've already felt this. You already know how wide the playing field, how much larger the playing field has gotten, because you feel that zoom out where your perspective has shifted to such a larger perspective, and it can make you feel really powerful, but also it can trick you into feeling like you're stronger than your weaknesses. So just be careful. Be very mindful of your weaknesses. No need to judge yourself. No need to put yourself down. No need to even dwell on them. But be honest and loving and accepting of them so they don't come up as a test you have to keep taking. Right? We want to be kind towards our misgivings, our flaws, our mistakes, our addictions. We want to be forgiving for where we've been and what we've done, because we realize that it's the only way to truly disconnect from them. Right? Like any real disconnect only happens from love, because anything only really happens from love. Right? Your genuine connections with people, you can't end them by hating someone. It actually just brings you much closer to them, because hate is a fucking active emotion, right? So just building on that, another thing that settles over you, probably has been doing it all of October, if you've just felt stuck in the fucking muck all of October. My lungs are sorry, but it's because your current life has become, it just, in the perspective of zooming out, right? And you just see how big the world just got. In that, from that perspective, your everyday life right now can feel so fucking tedious, and you need a new way to look at it. Now, some of you, just your instincts are so finely tuned, and your intuition is off the charts. So most of you already put something in motion almost a year ago that would now, at this time, put you in a position where you had to look at things in a new way, right? So for example, I have a cousin who's a Scorpio who just had a baby, mashallah. Like, that's the sort of thing I mean. Maybe you initiated a project a year ago. Maybe you switched jobs. Maybe, hearkening back to unconventional ideas, maybe it's that thing about learning a new language, a new partner, a new culture, a new religion, whatever it is. Now, if you planted that seed a year ago, 9 months ago, even in May of 23, now those seeds are sprouting, and they can get you out of your circle, out of your current rut. It's something new, something different, right? Now, when we talk about this in terms of love and romance, the way that I have it written here is sublime surprises. It's very possible, if you're single, that you meet someone who's not your type at all, and yet they're perfect for you, right? So the amazing thing about that, because November is very lucky for you, is that in the process of giving people a shot who aren't your type, you also get a chance to reinvent yourself in the context of relationships in general, because that person doesn't know you. That person doesn't know what bad habits you've had for the past, 5-6 years, or how you've been with partners, or what your toxic traits are, or, how moody you can be. I'm just making things up, like just whatever it is, right? If I wasn't making it up, if I was just going to read you, I would say there's no way for them to tell how much of a fucking grouch you can be. And they never need to know. Because one of the amazing things about being with someone who's not your type is, for some reason, you value them more. They never need to know how you used to be, because you don't have to be that person anymore. Pluto moving into Aquarius gives you a blank fucking check to go reinvent yourself in every way possible. From balls to bones, you can change everything about yourself, and nobody will call you out on it. They will just purely be impressed. If you tried to do this a year ago, everybody would have been up your ass, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're changing. What's going on? What's happened? Now, no one's even going to notice, because the amount of internal upheaval happening at this time, the last thing that people have the energy for is a reinvention or a glow up. So the fact that you choose these moments where everyone else is hiding in a dark corner, because they feel like bombs are coming down on them, of course you would be the one like sunbathing out, being like, I think I'm going to change my whole style. Yeah, do it. Do it in the midst of this much chaos and quite frankly, destruction. You deserve a moment in the sun. Like, this is your shit, right? If we're like riding head first into the apocalypse here, you're on the white horse. You're supposed to be the first guy in, right? So that may not feel new and fascinating to you, but it is. Because I think what happens now is that you get to be as, like, not weird, but you get to be as extreme as you really are. And you get to live in it in a way that constantly recharges you instead of having to hide it in a way that constantly drains you. Okay, I think that that's what, like, Pluto's really going to do for you, is that for the next, like, 2 decades almost, you just feel supercharged when you're being your most authentic self. That's when that battery gets charged. That's when that battery turns on. Now, on the 15th of November, Saturn will go direct. And for you, if you're in a relationship, this clarifies that unsaid weirdness that you may have been feeling. If you're in a relationship, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising, either you liked somebody, or this is like an ongoing relationship, or this is like a weird situationship where you felt like sexual tension, or the person was flirting with you and now they're not. The partner was being really nice to you and now they've been withdrawn, and you don't really know what to say because you don't want to get into a fight and it's not extreme enough for you to actually say something. You know, it's a gray area that you may have been suffering in, or like just the confusion is unpleasant. You may not have been suffering. If you're not in a relationship, I doubt you were suffering. But, you know, maybe you met someone you kind of like and you're like, oh, does this person like me or not? Like, there's confusion, there's need for clarification that are on the 15th. You get it. You get it. Those talks are happening. And for those of you who are in couples, you know, what you're going to want to say to the person is, why aren't we the same? Something has changed. And I'm just going to go ahead and be toxic and tell you, don't fucking do that. Don't have that conversation. That conversation, it's, you know what's easier than having that conversation? Moving out. Because that conversation is already going to take you to a place where they don't want to be with you and you don't want to be with them. So what I would suggest you do when Saturn goes direct, and you can actually address the weirdness and you can call it out and be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you've been distant, you've been like this, you've been like that. Instead of doing that, what I would do is I would match energy. I would pull away. I would get just as distant. I would protect myself. I would start spending time with myself. I would start spending money on myself. I would start paying attention to myself in a way that makes the other person break out of whatever is happening over there and re-engage with me. Because you don't think in terms of, I want to get my words out, I just need to get this out, I just need to say this, because you guys are like that. What you need to be doing is thinking about the end result and what you want from the situation, not what you get to say, not you get to get it out of your system. Well, at least I got it out of my system and I feel better. No, stop. This is about being goal-oriented. So we're going by what it is that you ultimately want, and we're going to reverse engineer from there back to what needs to be said. If you say to a partner who's already pulled away and being distant, I feel like you're being distant, I feel like you're not really there for me, I don't know what's going on, I'm having doubts. If they are truly being distant, okay, that's just going to make them clam up because they're like, fuck, this person's on to me. And if they're not being distant, they will start. Because you have introduced something into the relationship now that makes it so clear that you are a needy person. Okay, because here's what a not needy person would do. Excuse me. I'm going to drink something. Please drink something. What they're not going to do is think, oh, this person is so strong that they noticed that I was going through something and they came to me to ask me how I'm doing or what they can. No, that's what a strong, not needy person. A needy person is going to be like, what's going on? What's going on between us? Is this about me? What did I do? Do you not like me anymore? Are you not attracted to me anymore? Whereas what is attractive is if someone is going through something, if someone is pulling away, let's say worst case scenario, someone is, their eyes are wandering, whatever it is, the thing that's going to make them re-engage with you is if something is happening to their benefit. Now, if you were to go to that same person and say, hey, you've been a little out of it. Do you need help with anything? Is there anything I can do? Is there some, stress that's like overshadowing stuff for you right now? Maybe there's something I can help you with. You've made it not about you, and genius, you haven't made it about them either. You've put the weirdness and the issue out here in this third space where you can, as a team, now function. Hey, I'm on your side, is what you're saying to that person. Let's tackle this thing together. Now, they may or may not tell you what's actually going on, and it may be nothing that's going on. They may just be clamming up. 'Tis the season to clam up. They may just be having intense issues of their own, especially if they're a fixed sign. But you coming to them and not making it about you, even though it is completely about you. And of course, what you want to say is, what the fuck is going on? And why are you pulling away? And is there some other bitch in your life or whatever? That's fine. But that's not what we're doing, because that's not going to get us the results we want. Okay? Now, those of you who don't really need clarity, you already know what it is. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You don't need any fucking clarity. You already know exactly what the fuck is going on. It's just not what you wish was going on. For those of you, sit tight, because that person is going to start running their mouth, even though they shouldn't. And it's going to be embarrassing and cringe, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Now, Saturn direct also means that you can meet somebody new, regardless of where you fall on the relationship spectrum. Something that almost feels like a fantasy. I feel like November is very magical. And of course I feel that way because Scorpio season is just the fave. It's so magical. It's such a beautiful season. Such a beautiful time of year. So cozy. You know what I mean? So cozy. So family oriented. Like I really like it. And it has this magical quality. Like, I don't know. Of course, for you, it's your season, so you're going to agree with me. But as a non-Scorpio, but I am a 9. Anyway, as a non-Scorpio, I just can think back on so many things that have happened in my life that were these peak magical, really romantic moments, like fantasy level moments. And they were basically all in Scorpio season. So the potential here for you in November is that you could have an almost fantasy-like encounter with someone that makes you want to be a grown-up. It makes you want to be mature. It's like overnight, you're like, I should be a better man. Or, as a woman, I really need to get my shit together. Or as like, just regardless of how you identify, like, you know what? I need to grow the fuck up right now because that is not getting away from me. So if you're single and you're thinking, like, what is all this talk about? There's nobody in my life. My phone is dry. I would suggest that November is one of those months where you do that cute cash. I'm going to throw my hair in a bun, but I am wearing a little tinted moisturizer swag, that kind of thing. And, jump out there into life and do the little farmers markets and do the cute fall stuff. And, even if you're not hanging with anyone, even if you're by yourself, like go out, walk around, get some hot chocolate, do the cozy fall things that put you in those like cozy, really cute rom-com moments. Or if you did meet someone in that moment, you'd be like, oh my God, this is actually so cute because like this is the kind of moment where you'd meet someone. Put yourself in those situations, because regardless, again, this is when Saturn goes direct, regardless of where you are in a relationship, not in a relationship, situationship, you really like someone, whatever it is, the potential for either them to create that fantasy moment or just a completely new person that comes out of nowhere and sweeps you off your feet. The potential is high, very high. And more importantly, what's so interesting is the reaction that you have to them. Instead of it immediately being this lustful thing or, just like aggressively sexual thing, you genuinely, it prompts you to genuinely take stock of yourself, and you find yourself lacking immediately, and you know that, and you're like, nah, I gotta grow up, like tonight. I don't know, I forget what movie it is, but I remember this dialogue of like, it's in Vanilla Sky. It's in Vanilla Sky where he says, and then I realized I want to be a better man. And she's like, when did that happen? He's like, about 5 minutes ago. Exactly. Exactly. When you meet someone that you know could be it for you, it makes you grow up really fast. And November's got the potential, baby, to make that happen for you. And that's fucking exciting as hell. All right, let's move on and look at some money. So on the 4th, Mars is going to move into Leo. Now for Scorpio rising, that's your 10th house, that's your house of career. And what it does is it gives you a very tight pull on that rope between your profession and your emotions. You feel the snag there. And when that rope is pulled, you feel that pull. And it's painful. It's emotional. On top of that, well, why is it emotional? This is why. The reason it's making you antsy, moody, emotional, impatient is because when Mars moves into Leo, it begins its Pluto opposition. Now, that opposition is going to make you emotional, impatient. Why? Because you want to switch careers. If it doesn't even matter if you're happy with what you do right now, there is something else. And even if there is nothing else, if you're that far back still, even if you haven't figured out there's something else, you know this can't be it. Wherever you are in that timeline is okay. But the Mars-Pluto opposition, regardless of where you are in that timeline, just makes you feel so impatient. Because it's like you want to get started with your new life already. You just, and again, even if you just got to that point where you've become disenchanted with life and how you're living, how you're working, you want it now. Mars and Pluto just makes you want it now. And the only thing really you can do, because you can't have it right now, the only thing you can do is channel that anxiety, just channel that energy into excitement. Switch it up on yourself. It's not anxiety, it's not impatience, it's energy, it's excitement that you can use to push through the winter and really get a lot of work done. Because that's all you have to do. You just have to do the work. If it's about, you're impatient, you want to switch careers, it's about money, put in all the work. Just do the work. Just do the work. Okay. Now, this energy that you have, that you can, transmute your anxiety into this energy, the only thing you have to be careful with is that, yes, it's very possible, and I'm sure you turn hay into gold every day doing this, but you know yourself that the tricky thing about turning anxiety into excitement and using it as fuel is that sometimes that doubt will drag that energy back into anxiety, and then it becomes useless as fuel, and then you're half mid-project or halfway through the cleaning or halfway through whatever, and you've lost all the steam. Okay, so what we want to do to keep that anxiety in check and keep basically funneling that anxiety into excitement and funneling it into just keeping on top of your priorities, keeping energized, keeping activated, pushing through the things you want to do. The only thing that you have to keep in mind when you're in those energetic flows and doing really well and on that high is that doubt is a liar. Just remember I said it, put it deep in your brain somewhere, and every time you start to doubt yourself, other people, abundance that's coming your way, goodness, because I don't know, it took too long, it's never going to happen because I don't see anything in proof of it. Doubt is a liar. That's it. Doubt is a liar. Remember it, remember it, remember it. If you don't keep that doubt in check, this anxiety will eat you up and will have you thinking that you're no good and that you were never any good and that, and if you want to stay caged up, that is how you're going to start to feel. But this astrology wants you out of bounds. It wants you outside the pen. It wants you outside the cage. It's like no more for you. It wants you to get radical. That transformation that we talk about with Scorpios, life-changing, just complete redo, that's this. This is your moment. It's happening now. Okay? Now, the most transformative part of this process, even though I know we're talking about money, but this is so much bigger than that, the most informative part of this process is you realizing what notions and ideas you have, whether they come from your family, your marriage, your society, what notions you have that are bars on your soul, bars on your cage. What are those family, what's that family that you have to live up to, and what do they think, and who do they think you are? What's that spouse think of you? And what you should be living up to. What does your general society around you expect? These things, when they occur to you, don't be pressured by them. Understand that they're occurring to you and they're being shown to you this way so you can see, look, there is a bar here. It's not being shown to you so you can hit your head in the bars and give yourself a concussion. It's being shown to you so you understand that even as Pluto has moved into Aquarius and opened all the doors, if you've got bars on your soul that your mind made on its own, Aquarius is not opening those bars. It's only going to bring you awareness of how those bars don't really exist, and all you have to do is blink them away. You can literally take a deep breath and blink them away and they won't exist anymore. Nothing can cage you in if you don't give it power. Okay? So that's also a big thing that you're understanding and learning all through November, is that the giving away of power is actually one of the most beneficial things you can do for society, for yourself, and that it's sort of a moot point because any power you give away comes right back to you. Now, because Mercury is in Sagittarius, is talking about money again, because Mercury is in Sag from the 2nd of November, and in Sagittarius, Mercury will go retrograde on the 25th. The reason that's a big deal is because it can cause a lot of misunderstandings and delays in money, especially because Mercury will be opposing Jupiter in Gemini. Mercury will be in Sag, Jupiter will be in Gemini, and Jupiter's retrograde. Okay, so there's misunderstandings with money. There's a need. I would, before the weekend, go to the bank and get some cash out. Put it wherever you feel safe, but get enough out that you can, that you wouldn't need anything for like a week, The other thing is just be really, really flexible during the retrograde. Be very cautious and flexible and tolerant, and don't blow up afterwards. Be genuinely cautious because you understand, as you will, that the situation is serious. Okay. One of the other things you can do in terms of money is just make a promise to yourself that you won't make any impulsive purchases. None at all. And I think that you should be that conservative until February 2025. I think if you can just keep yourself from buying things, by February you're set financially in a way that will even surprise you. Inshallah, inshallah. And, one of the things that you may discover, may actually save your life, is that you'll realize that you didn't really have many joys outside of spending or making money. And now that that's all changed, it can almost be too much, like you're used to living a certain way. Just don't recklessly spend. Don't do it. Everybody wants to do donuts in the parking lot in a Lamborghini, but we don't. Don't do it. All right, let's talk about mental and physical health. Let's talk about wellness. With the sun in your sign, baby, your health gets better. The health gets better. The sun is shining on you. And it warms your insides up. It makes everything run faster, smoother. Okay? On the 19th, like I said, ad nauseum, Pluto will return to Aquarius. Now, what does that mean for you? The past, baby. The past. Those deep, deep feelings associated with the past. Deep, deep feelings of, any family members that have passed away. The past, the deep feelings, the ties to family. It's all there with Pluto and Aquarius, and you have to be super, super careful because it's easy to fall into a place where you're just crying a lot and you can lose your inner balance, and it's really important to maintain that even if you're grieving something. And then the other thing about Pluto returning to Aquarius that applies to your mental and physical health is that it's very possible that this transit will create a lot of turmoil. And the only way to keep in front of it is to heal your emotional wounds. Because I don't think we want Pluto to heal our emotional wounds. That seems like asking someone with a gun to a knife fight, right? We kind of want to heal these emotional wounds ourselves. Because Pluto's got some funny notions of what it means to help, right? Okay. And that healing of old emotional wounds, that healing that you need to do, it's amazing and you should do it. But do it with somebody who really knows you well. Not a partner. Not a partner. Especially not the partner you're dealing with. Okay? Go to someone who you know is not a hater, who's never hated on you, who loves you, etc., etc. And talk to them about everything. Now, it's very important when you become more patient over the course of the next 2 weeks, when you become more patient because of what you're tolerating, it's very important for you to replace whatever murderous thoughts you may be having with people to a friendly dialogue. You might have to do a little bit of acting to achieve this, But I think it's better. I think it's better. I think it's possible for you to say too much, push too much, impose your authority, impose your will. I think it's too easy for you. It's usually effective. And so, like, why not just do that? But if you're patient, I think you can. I think you can. I think you can get on the same wavelength as somebody. Doesn't have to be a romantic partner. Just someone who sees your strength for the fragile, rare glass that it is. Super fragile. Impossible to replicate, one of a kind. But so strong and so fragile at the same time that it's kind of terrifying. So vulnerable and so strong at the same time. Something to learn. Something to learn. Your vulnerability has always been your strength, but you swear that you need armor to protect yourself because of it. I don't know how long it's going to take you to realize that the soft in you is what actually attracts people. None of us are buying the other stuff. It's cute though. You know, like when I was fucking around with that guy that dressed like a vampire, it's cute or whatever, but like, that's not what we like. That's what you like. That's not what we like. We like that underneath all that death and despair and emo gothness, you know, because you guys are emo in your spirit. What we like, what we're attracted to, what we're magnetized to is that completely clean-hearted, totally innocent, vulnerable person that's hiding behind that created monster. And whether you are aware of this or not, you're not. We see that person all the time. You just don't see us see them. Because I think it would make you mad that we can see you that vulnerable. But we can. We can. Would be nice to be able to trust someone to be exactly how you are and just be. Well, out of bounds, Scorpio. That is your look at November. We're going to do some cards in like a week and go through a detailed extended. But for now, I'm hoping that you liked the costume, the video, the visuals. I was very much wanting to do just the normal kind of video, but the coughing was so extreme. There's no way I would. It was just annoying, you know. It's very unpleasant. So I hope you liked it, and I hope you have a great November. I think that, like I said, although Scorpio season is always magical, this particular Scorpio season and this particular November is life-changing because the world won't be the same after the 19th. You know, like I said, the color changes. And it looks like you adapt and in fact bloom just fine. That is very impressive. You are the rose that grows amongst the chaos. And there is something of that chaos in you, but it's just enough to be wildly fascinating and seductive. Not too much. Just the soil you were grown in. All right. All right. I love you. And I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye.
You know Bruce Wayne? Wow, is that right? His father saved my life. He got shot in the chest. Right here. I couldn't go to no hospital, so we saw the whole thing. Up on the stairs, looking down. I remember your face. He did go.
That's a crime scene. It's Mitchell, for Christ's sake. He's involved in this?
No, it's not involved.
How did you know? He's a goddamn vigilante.